Good morning, and welcome to College and Career Pathways, hosted by Vermont Student Assistance Corporation. My name is Mary Thompson, and I'm an Assistant Director at St. Michael's College, and I'd like to talk to you today about navigating the admission process. Here's my contact information, and I'll be showing it again at the end of the presentation. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would be delighted to help. So where do you start? The admission process can seem overwhelming. So I'd like to talk to you about just that. Where do you start? Understand the application steps, talk admission, distinguish yourself, and maybe at the end help you bust some of the myths that are out there. So first things first, what should you consider? Well, I'd like you to start by considering what's most important to you. Where would you like to go to school? Would you like to stay close to home? Or would you like to go far away? Or is somewhere in the middle more comfortable to you? I'm a native Vermonter, and I was one of those students that felt like they had to leave home to go to college. And then after a while, I decided there was no place like home, and here I am back in Vermont. You should also think about the size of the school that you would like to attend. Do you envision yourself in a large urban campus with thousands of students? Or would you feel more comfortable with intimate classes and getting to know your professors? Think about academics. You certainly want to make sure that the colleges that you're interested in have the major that you're interested in and have the academics and the lab facilities to support you in those studies. You also want to think about campus life. Is it important to you to have sororities and fraternities? What athletics are important? What clubs do you envision yourself joining? Do you think that you'd like to spend your Saturdays at a football stadium with 70,000 of your closest friends? Or is that less important to you and you'd rather have a club in astronomy? You can find all of those things on college websites and by asking the right questions. And finally, think about internships and job placement. What do you want to do after graduation? What's most interesting to you? Can you find an internship and try it out before you graduate? And then think about career services. How will they help you with your future career search? How do you go about collecting information? Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind when anyone's thinking about a college search is a college fair. But college fairs can feel a little overwhelming with many schools in the room. And where do you start? So start by doing your research. Find out who's going to be there. Maybe think about what schools you definitely want to talk to because you might not be able to visit them. Perhaps visiting is too cost prohibitive or it's just too far away for you to make it work during your college search. Consider if some of those schools will be coming to your guidance office. Your guidance office should be a great resource for you through this entire process and will certainly host many colleges over the course of your time in high school. Guidance office visits usually mean a smaller group, and it means that you get to spend more time with that college asking the questions that are important to you. You might not get that same amount of time with a college fair, so when you're thinking about college fairs, make sure that you see the ones that are most important to you then, and perhaps the schools that might not be visiting your guidance office. And most importantly, if you can, visit the schools that you are most interested in applying to. You get to meet more people on campus, you get to have a tour and see what it really feels like to be a student there, and you get to ask all of your questions. A visit can be a very important resource. Build your team. Talk to the people who are going to be important parts of your process. Think about your school counselors. They're a very valuable resource. Think about your family and friends. Where did they go to school? Do they have any pro tips? A lot of your resources have done this before. Think about external resources like Vermont Student Assistance Corporation and the College Board. They can also help you direct your search because they've been doing this for a really long time. And then last but not least, think about your admission counselor. If you visit schools, you'll meet the person who's likely responsible for your last name, letter of the alphabet, or your area in which you live. And all of those things can be important. Ask all the questions. I promise that there's nothing that we as admission counselors haven't heard before, and we're happy to talk to you about what makes us different what makes our schools special, and how we might be able to support your education needs. Next, you have to get that application ready. So you want to take a look at your checklist items. You want to think about, are all the schools you're applying to Common App schools? Do they use the Coalition app, or do they have school-specific applications? Think about application fees and application fee waivers. For instance, if you visit St. Michael's College, we will waive your application fee for you. You have to get official transcripts from your high school. You have to get test scores for some schools. St. Michael's College is test score optional, and so are a lot of other schools around the country, which means you can send your test scores if you feel like they will support your application, but you don't have to if you feel like they're not your best asset. We typically look for recommendations. Usually schools ask for 2, one from your guidance counselor and one from a faculty member. And make sure you ask ahead of time, because everybody's going to be asking at the same time, and you don't want to be stuck in that mad rush. We ask for a personal essay. I know one of the things that VSAC is covering during this presentation is personal essay writing. This is really your opportunity to show your voice and tell us about yourself. Talk about your struggles. Talk about something that you're proud of. Really let your true self shine through in your essay, and make sure you spell check. And then resume and extracurricular activities. Resumes aren't always required, but it is a great idea to share your extracurricular activities. And that can be anything from your part-time job to athletics that you do. And all of those things can be equally important depending on how much time and effort you give to them. Approaching the process. Make sure you organize for your deadlines. Make sure you know what those deadlines are. A lot of schools handle each one differently, and if you ever have questions, again, don't hesitate to ask your admission counselor. So how do you make sense of what they all mean? Early decision is a binding decision. That means if you apply early decision to a college, you're saying that if you get in, you're going to that college. Early action is a non-binding alternative. You can apply using an early action deadline, find out your decision early, and still not have to make your deposit until May 1st. Regular decision, you apply along with everybody else during the regular decision process. It can give you a little more time to get your application materials together. You'll just have to wait longer to find out your decision. And then rolling admission usually means that the college will accept your application anytime it comes in, but you're going to have to wait on your decision. Enhancing your application. Aside from all of the things required in the common application, what else can make you stand out? What's important to college admissions? Well, your course selection can be really important. Are you taking the classes that make the most sense for what you want to study? Are you challenging yourself? Are there ways that you could be challenging yourself more? Are you taking an honors class? Are you taking an AP class if that appeals to you? Your academic performance is also very important. So be sure that if you're taking those AP classes, it's something that you feel confident in. The worst thing would be to take a class that's hard and fail it rather than taking a class that you can manage. Essay preparation. Be sure that you spell check your essays and have somebody proofread them. The most important thing that colleges are looking for is, can you write and can you tell a story? And is the story coherent? Selecting your references. Here's my public service announcement. Make sure your references like you. You definitely want them to be able to say all of the good things about you and support your application. And then demonstrate your interest. Get in touch with your college admission counselor. Go visit campus, as I've already said, if you possibly can. If you can't, attend an online information session. Email with your counselor. Email with the financial aid office. Meet with your counselor when they come to your high school. And then send thank you notes. Just make sure you proofread them first. How do we make decisions? As admission counselors, how do we decide? What drives an admission decision? We're looking to see if you're capable, if you will be capable at our school, if you'll have success. It's very important to the admission process that you have demonstrated that you'll be successful when you're a student at our college. The worst thing in the world for us would be for you to come to school and not have success there. Then being capable versus being competitive. Are you a fantastic student and we'd be delighted to have you, or are you going to need more supports? And that's fine too. Share that with us during the process. At St. Michael's, we definitely do a holistic review, and I think many of our colleagues do as well, which means we're really looking at everything. We are reading every piece of paper you send us. Your references are as important to us as your transcripts, and we read every single piece. So spell check your essays and know that your academic trend can have as much impact on our review as your final GPA. Did you struggle when you first went to high school? Was it a big change from middle school? That's fine. Did you get better as you went along and got used to the process? Did you take harder courses as you felt that you were able and your schedule allowed? And tell us your story. That's the most important thing we're looking for through the application process. And make sure that there's a fit between your goals and the strengths of the college. We're looking for that as much as you are, and that's how you go through the process. Decisions. So there are a couple types of decisions, most of which will seem fairly straightforward. You can be admitted, which is pretty straightforward. You got into the college, and to secure your place in the class, you would submit your deposit by whatever deadline you're given by your school. Typically, it's May 1st. This year, it might be a little different. You could be waitlisted, which means you could be waitlisted from an early action round to a regular decision round. And that just means the college either wants more information from you before they make a decision, or they want to wait a little bit longer on their decision-making process. It doesn't mean yes, it doesn't mean no. It just means we're going to move your application. You could be denied, which means that the college is not going to offer you a place in the incoming class. But it doesn't mean that's forever. You could certainly attend another school and transfer at a later date. We could defer your decision, which is a little bit like waitlisting. And you also have the option to defer. If you get into college and you decide that you need more time, or you have athletics that you want to pursue for a year, or you want to backpack around Europe, you can be admitted to a college, pay your deposit, and defer your decision for a year. And then there are other types of decisions like conditional or provisional, which allow for the school to say, we'd like you to come, but under these conditions. Perhaps you need extra English language support, or we want you to take a couple classes over the summer and just make sure that you're ready for college before we give you a full admission. And then you choose. Hopefully you have dozens of offers and you have to make your decision now. Typically, like I said, the deadline is May 1st for deposits, unless you have applied early decision, which, as we talked about, is a binding agreement with the college you applied to. This year, it would probably be a good idea to be in touch with any colleges that you applied to. It's possible that they may be giving deadline extensions, like St. Michael's College, to June 1st. And please don't hesitate to be in touch with us. Visit even after you're admitted. Come to admitted student days. It's never too late to get your questions answered, and be in touch with us. Make an informed decision. Okay, so we've moved on to the myths. Myth number 1, getting into college is more competitive than ever. Well, the reality is most colleges admit most students, and your chances of getting in are probably better than you think. So even if it's a reach for you, it's not a bad idea to apply, especially if it meets all of your personal criteria for the search process. Myth number 2, I need to find the perfect college. Given that there are 4,000 colleges nationwide and more than 20 in just the state of Vermont, there are a lot of really excellent choices. Make sure that you find fit, a place where you see yourself, over perfection. Myth number 3, I should not apply to that college because tuition is so expensive. Well, our friends at Vermont Student Assistance Corporation will tell you that you should never rule out a college because of the sticker price. Some very expensive colleges have excellent financial aid that may surprise you. And some of the cheap schools, wind up being more expensive because of limited financial aid options. It's not a bad idea to apply and see what comes out in the financial aid process. And again, keep in touch. If something in your family circumstance has changed, or you're going to go from having one student to two students in college in the same year, that can drastically change your family's financial picture, and things could look very different for both of you who are in school. And always do your FAFSA. Myth number 4, my test scores are too low for me to get into that school. Well, as I mentioned before, there are a lot of test optional schools like St. Michael's College who will use your test scores if you'd like us to and you feel like they support your application, or are happy to not receive your test scores and go based off of the merit of your academics from high school. And even schools that require SATs and ACTs look at a variety of factors in order to assess your academic abilities. Myth number 5, I haven't taken school seriously enough and I missed my chance to get into college. Improvement counts a lot. If you didn't do as well freshman and sophomore year, but you really came on strong junior and senior year, that means a lot to colleges. It means you've grown up a little bit. It means that now you're ready for the challenges that a college or university will offer, and that's important to us. Self-advocacy also matters. Come in, have an interview, tell us your story in your essay. Did something happen? What made you change? How did you decide that this was an important thing to you? And if you're a late bloomer, don't worry. You're in good company and you probably still have a lot of great options. So we've reached the end of my presentation. I'll mention again, here's my contact information. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to email me. I would be delighted to help. Thanks for coming today and best of luck in your search.